the ability to evaluate it, what it might mean for you. We hear a testimonial and we say, yes, but how would that apply to me? We have the ability to evaluate that so that we could start right where we are with our own limitations of capital, our limitations of time, perhaps in the beginning when you have to start part-time. But you can do that. You have the power and the ability to do that. Then here's another one. You have the ability and the power to decide. Decision-making can have the most dramatic effect in your life. Decision-making can be the beginning of a new growth period for you, not only personally, but a growth period for your business, your skill levels, your ability to reach out and touch other people, the ability to decide. What a long list of personal power you have, that I have, that all of us have. We just need to be reminded. Now here's another one, and that's the ability to act, the ability to put into action what you see, what you comprehend, what you imagine, what you believe, and then what you have faith for. That ability to act is unprecedented in creating the miracle. Because it's not imagination that creates a career. It's not imagination that creates a business. It's not imagination that creates a customer base. It's using your imagination and finally putting it to work. But you have the ability to do that. Fortunately, in Herbalife, you can do it part-time. If you have to get started with limited time, you just make the limited time pay. Before you go to work, during your lunch hour, in the evenings, on the weekends, little pieces of time that you find something to do that will start your career, keep it going, and keep the momentum high. Your ability to act can develop all of the disciplines, because you cannot learn the disciplines unless you actually do the work, unless you actually do the action. It's like learning to communicate. Way back in those early days, I had a tough time. I described it one time, my first meeting, I stood up, my mind sat back down, left me standing there. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. My knees are banging together. The sweat's pouring off my face. I'm scared. It's called terror, right? Those first few times. But sure enough, I did it again. I worked up the courage to do it the third time and the fourth time. And that was about 35, 36 years ago. I'm glad you were not in on my first presentation. And now much more confidence all these years later, because I have acted on practicing my skills to communicate. But you've got the ability to do that. You've got the power and the ability to create a career that will serve you well for whatever time you want to spend in developing this career. You have the ability to develop an enterprise, a business, to be in business for yourself. Mark Hughes has created this incredible enterprise called Herbalife. At first it was a dream. At first he thought about it. He saw other people that had tried, and some of them had tried and failed, and he said, I'm going to try and succeed. But first it was a vision in his mind. Then he went to work on that vision, and now look what's happened all of these years later. And Mark's testimonial is just like yours and mine. If we can do it, you can do it. If we can start, you can start. If we can believe, you can believe. If we can try, you can try. And if we can try again, you can try again. If you can keep trying until finally it gets easier, finally the skills start to develop, if any of us can do it, you can do it. You have the ability to develop these disciplines that create value in your life. The disciplines, learning how to sell, learning how to get customers, learning how to build that customer base, the skills of learning how to recruit. You can learn to do that. You have the power to do that. Learning how to serve your organization well, learning how to communicate, learning how to organize the people that you put together, learning how to keep in touch. All of that is within your personal power. So I wanted to remind you one more time of all of the power that's available. First, the market power. Second, the capital power. Third, the Herbalife power. And fourth, your personal power. If you put all of that together and just think about it a little more now than you have maybe in the past, there's no reason why you can't have all of the business you want, all of the success you want, And I'm telling you, there never was a better year to do it than this year. This is the year of high intensity. This is the year of formulating the dreams of doing billions in sales as a company around the world. But it's also the vision of helping each Herbalife distributor, each customer get maximum benefit from products, and each distributor to get maximum benefit from the opportunity. That's what we're all about. And with this kind of power, especially for you personally, there's no reason why you cannot dramatically, this year especially, affect your own life, and by that, affect the lives of the people that you want to touch in the years to come. Here are some of my suggestions for this year to make this an even better year than perhaps you had decided to make it when the year first began. And here's this list. I'd like to have you take some notes. If you're ready to take notes, I'm ready to share with you my list. How to make this a fantastic year for you, cashing in on all of the power, all of the intensity, the momentum that Herbalife has going for it at the time. Here's the first one. Review your performance. Even when you first get started and you're out there just starting to learn the Herbalife skills, just starting to put it all together, you have to pause every once in a while and ask, how am I doing? And sometimes this kind of personal inspection of ourselves can be very valuable, because what you want to do is to overcome your mistakes as early as possible. In my first year learning to recruit, learning to sell, all those years ago, I remember some habits that I got into, especially that first year, that I had to, by the time that year was finished, take a look at and start to make changes. And if you can make those changes as early as possible, then those changes can give you more value to cash in on for the future. So that's a good one. Review your performance. Mark Hughes does it. Dr. Katzen does it. All of us do it. The leaders in Herbalife have learned to do it, to sit down once in a while and take a look at your own performance, what you're doing, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. That's vitally important, especially if you'd like to be an effective leader for the future. Review your performance. Give yourself a grade at the end of the day, just personally between you and yourself. Would I give myself an A or an A+ for today's activity? Would I give myself a B? Okay. Would I give myself a C? Passable. Or did I sort of mess up some things today that I don't feel that good about? Not something you have to publicize. Not something that you have to perhaps let anyone else know about it, just so you know about it. Every once in a while, take the time to check your own performance and review how you're doing. A very famous man, Dr. Schuler, I was traveling with him one time in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. And I remember after we finished those two occasions, we had about 3,000 in each seminar. This very famous man, who's been out there lecturing and teaching for the last 35, 40 years, and he's famous around the world, has a famous church in America. As we were talking after the session in Singapore, he said, you know, Mr. Rowan, I think my presentation in Kuala Lumpur on the scale of 1 to 10 was only about a 6. He said, I got to talking politics and I should have left those subjects alone, and that got me a little bit distracted. And if I was to evaluate my performance, my presentation in Kuala Lumpur, he said, I think it was probably about a 6. But he said, here in Singapore, the one we just completed, I felt good about. And if I was to evaluate my presentation here, I think on the scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 9. And I had to agree with him. Those numbers were probably pretty true. But here's what was interesting. This famous man, been famous for many years, lecturing around the world, was still judging his own performance, still taking a critical look at how he was doing, whether or not he was distracted, whether or not he was talking about subjects he should have left alone, especially in that particular country. And I thought, how amazing. No wonder he's famous. No wonder he's thought of well around the entire world, because he's still judging his performance. I want to do the same.